If you could please also remind your program directors to keep the interpreter in frame even during post, so that when it's posted on social media, Twitter, Instagram, etc., it is still accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing. Cool? So keep the interpreter in frame the whole time. Thank you very much.
Good morning again. Are the mics working? It sounds a little quiet this morning. Well, good to see you all again. And just to let you know, yes, I did know what Gabriel Sterling was going to say yesterday, and that had our full support. He spoke it with passion, and he spoke it with truth. And it's about time that more people are out there speaking with truth. Perhaps wasn't the exact wording that I would have used, but you caught the essence of it, and he has my full support. I think we have a tremendous team. But also, Attorney General Barr has stated that he and the Justice Department, this is President Trump's Justice Department, has seen no widespread fraud. They have had multiple investigations like us, and our investigators have seen no widespread fraud either. Even after this office request that President Trump try and quell the violent rhetoric being born out of his continuing claims of winning the states where he obviously lost, he tweeted out, "Expose the massive voter fraud in Georgia." This is exactly the kind of language that is at the base of a growing threat environment for election workers who are simply doing their jobs. We will continue to do our jobs, follow the law, and follow the process. Now let's get into that process. Yesterday, there were special runoff elections in Georgia. Kwanzaa Hall has been elected to finish the remainder of the term of John Lewis. Congratulations, Congressman-elect Kwanzaa Hall. Sonia Halpern will represent State Senate District 39 in the coming session. And finally, Deborah Gonzalez will be the district attorney in the Western District, which is comprised of Clark and Oconee counties. And I had served in the House with Deborah Gonzalez. These elections were run by election and poll workers doing their jobs. This is a service to our community. These workers are your neighbors. You go to church with them, you shop in the same stores, and your kids go to the same schools. They don't deserve what is being thrown at them. Now, on to the recount. We have had about 110 counties that have finished their work. In our continuing conversations with the counties, we anticipate all of them will make our midnight deadline. We'll be putting up the reporting site up at 2 p.m. today. We have seen no substantial changes to the results from any counties so far. And that's what we expected. And I think that's what most other people have also. And I want to thank again all those hardworking election officials in all 159 counties who continue to do so and continue to do their jobs methodically and professionally. For January 5th, we are at 983,735 absentee ballot requests so far. And counties have already accepted 11,474. LNA testing, logic and accuracy testing, will begin this week for the early vote for this election that begins in only 12 days, all across Georgia. I believe that January 5th is where people should be expending their energy. We need to look ahead. The control of the United States Senate and a statewide Public Service Commission seat are at stake. Now, on Monday and Tuesday, what we've been talking about is some of these outside independent groups contacting people. And what they said is they were using our voter file. But that's not true. Here's something that came to our house yesterday. We got 3 of them, all from the same organization. And it's to my son, Brenton J. Raffensperger, who passed away 2 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago. He's not on our voter files here in Georgia. We checked. So I just want to let you know that what they say can't be supported by the facts on the ground, and we have proof in our own home. And so we're calling that out. We called it out Monday and Tuesday. This came yesterday. So just interesting how timing works out that way. I'm grateful for all those who serve their communities. I want to extend grace to those that seemingly have hate in their heart. We've all been through an awful lot. As many of us have said, we wish that our guy would have won the election, but it doesn't look like our guy has won the election, and it looks like Vice President Biden will be carrying Georgia, and he is our president-elect. I encourage all of you to stay engaged, advocate for your values, policies, and goals you believe. Argue, persuade, and engage, but do so peacefully. We are a nation of laws and not of men. We have to remember that. We have systems and policies and procedures and institutions that have served us well. We would do well to secure, protect, and enhance those institutions to further protect and defend our Constitution and our nation. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Gabriel Sterling, the Voting System Implementation Manager of the state of Georgia. Just one minor update on the specifics around the recount. We got a call in this morning that Fulton County on Monday, when they had completed the hand audit, for some reason thought there likely wouldn't be a recount and started boxing everything back together, including the absentee in person, which is the early vote, and the election day votes in the similar boxes. So on Monday, they accidentally scanned, I don't know how many boxes, but some number of boxes of advanced voting into the election day bucket of votes. So their plan right now, when they discovered this, is they're going to do their plan today, which is to scan through the largest amount of ballots, which is the absentee in person, and then at the end of the day, rescan all of those ballots that they had scanned originally on Monday, which is the smallest amount of ballots, which is the election day, about 53,000. There's about 315,000 advanced in person and 53,000 election day votes. They should still make the deadlines. They have 17 scanners going. They got started about an hour late this morning. And just to respond to the Fulton elected officials saying, show us some proof, there's some proof. I mean, it's just consistently having things like that, and they just stack up and they onto each other, and it cascades. And again, they're the largest county. They have special situations they have to deal with. They have more to deal with than anybody else, but I think one of the biggest things we've seen is they have generals and they have privates and they have very little management in the middle of those things to have processes in place. And that's one of the things we continue to see there. It's unfortunate. All of our counties had a lot on them, as the secretary said. I mean, most of these people didn't sign up for this. But those are the details we have on that. As the secretary said, we're going to be launching the ENR site, election night reporting site, at 2 o'clock today. You'll get to see everything that exists as it's already been uploaded, and they'll continue to upload through the night. And we have given a deadline to the counties that if they do have a change in the outcomes, they're going to recertify at the county level by noon on Friday. And then we take all those changes in, we will then certify that afternoon. And as I understand at that point, that the governor may then have to recertify again and send that up to the electors list again to DC. So with that, I'll take any questions. Justin.
There's a federal lawsuit filed against the Secretary of State's office today saying you improperly purged 198,000 people from the voter rolls. Did you purge 198,000 people from the voter rolls who shouldn't have been?
I'm going to go with no. Frankly, I've not seen or heard of this lawsuit yet, but we follow federal law, which basically says there's a window of 90 days before any federal election. And for Georgia, essentially, we had the presidential preference in March.
This is from the purge last year.
And let's not call it a purge. It is federally mandated list maintenance. No one's getting purged. And let's be very clear on this. Your name remains on our books. If you move away to Georgia and you move back, you get the same voter ID number. We know who you are. Nobody's being removed who's not supposed to be already removed. There are 3 ways to get on that list. And I'm probably going to forget one at this point because it's been a while since I had to talk about this, because in 2020, we don't do any list maintenance. You die, so then you're off. There's NCOA, the National Change of Address, and that gets loaded on, and we look at those things to compare the ones that are there. There's the return mail, which is if the elections office, the county elections office sends you something and it gets returned to them, they then send you another letter saying, hey, are you still there? And if you don't answer that, then you get put on the inactive list. Then it's like, depending on where the election cycles fall, and the new law we passed in 2019, it's either 7 or 10 years before you get removed from being an active or inactive person. You go to canceled status. So I'm going to go with no on that. I know our processes and procedures, and I'm shocked to even hear that anybody's even attempting to do that at this point when we have so many bigger fish to fry. Yes, ma'am.
What were sent that absentee
I'll find out. I didn't read the. I just saw that this morning when I walked in. He was not happy about that. Yes, sir.
Have you heard directly from the president or the White House as to how the kid's been?
Me? No. Seriously doubt I will. I do not believe he has either. I mean, you saw the response to the tweet about what was stated here yesterday, and it was simply to ignore it more than anything and to keep on doing what he was doing. Anybody else? Yes, right. I don't know. I think we have to do it within 7 days, but we still have to do the ballot run. There's several steps we got to go through, but it'll be pretty quickly. And then once he gets certified, he can go up and get sworn in for the remainder of the term, which will be up until, I guess, the swearing in of Nikema Williams. Emil.
How similar or dissimilar is the uploading process for the counties for this recount as opposed to election night when they were doing it?
It's going to be relatively similar. They're not going to have as many cards to put into the EMS on the front end, but they're going to be able to just basically take the jump drive and put it into the ENR. We're using the same CITL system we normally use, so it'll look the same to everybody as well. Yes, sir.
The investigation, I understand things are fluid here, but the investigation into the outside groups for the January runoff, is there an estimated timeline of how long that investigation will take, or when we could hear from you guys about anything?
Well, when you keep on kicking over rocks and keep on finding new things, it always expands the timeline of the investigation. So I don't have a timeline yet. I'm not an investigator. We do talk to Francis Watson, our chief investigator, regularly to see where we stand on these things. But let's remember, we have 250 active investigations just from 2020, the majority of which have been coming from the general election. And I think 18 of which surround absentee ballots. And then we have these new ones coming in about third-party groups. And I'm not sure how many of those qualify in the ones that are trying to potentially encourage people to commit felonies by registering illegally. But we are continuing a pace on trying to track these things down. And part of this is about making sure they act responsibly. Third-party groups have every right to register people. They don't have a right to encourage people to break the law, to confuse and frighten people by sending things to their dead relatives, and then it undermines the overall confidence in the system the same way the President Trump's comments are. I mean, I find it somewhat ironic that Stacey Abrams is coming out and claiming the higher moral ground because she set the stage for a lot of this by her claims the system was rigged. It's the same thing, two sides of the same coin. And both of them undermine the system, and both of them undermine democracy. I was talking to a friend of mine from DC yesterday, and he said it was crazy how the left was undermining their own voters from believing in the system, and now it's crazy that the right is doing the same thing. And we're seeing now the left is exploiting that. We see these billboards up saying that Loeffler and Perdue were not there for Trump. We don't need to be there for them. Discouraging people from voting is not the right way to go about this. Fight about your values, argue, engage, persuade, win over the votes. All the stuff we're talking about here is election administration. Everybody has the same access to these things. Let's go to the drop boxes real quick. That some Republicans are upset about drop boxes. They say it encourages ballot harvesting. This secretary helped pass a law that outlawed ballot harvesting for the first time. And if you really want to talk about what's less secure, the drop boxes are monitored 24 hours a day by video cameras. A United States Postal Service box isn't. So somebody can walk in with 300, stamped envelopes and put them into a USPS box, and it's less secure than if they tried to do it under video surveillance. All these steps are there evenly for everybody. How you choose as a campaign and as a party, as a consultant or whatever to use them is up to you. In my life, in my old life, I used to be a political consultant. I guess some people know that now after the last 24 hours. I used to say, however the hell you want to vote, go do it. And I'll encourage you to do it that way. And we loved banking votes early in early voting. We loved banking votes in absentee. It was a great way to make sure you got those players off the field and you could focus on who was left. I mean, some of this stuff is blocking and tackling for both parties. But it's important to realize that what we do is we set the stage, we set the playing field, and everybody has to follow the same rules and everybody has the same opportunities. That is the goal. That is the goal. Yes, ma'am. Claire. Okay, take it off. I can't hear you. Yes. If it's one vote different, they have to recertify. So that's what we're really seeing is 1, 2, 3 off, and some of it's going to come down to the adjudication differences, the hand-marked absentee ballots, which is where you see all the issues. The BMD ballots are great because there's no doubt who they voted for. Voter intent is absolutely certain. But the hand-marked paper ballots are the ones where we see adjudication, you look at it differently. There might be an overvote that wasn't caught before or adjudicated slightly differently than it was in the earlier, both the hand audit and the earlier count. So if it's off by one vote difference, they have to recertify that particular election. And then if one county has to recertify one vote, then the state has to do the entire recertification again. So we do know that those counties exist. I do not have a count of them. Hopefully by this afternoon I can tell you. In fact, we could probably all look at the ENR side by the time we do another press conference, and we'll know exactly how many there are. Yes, sir.
There's a couple of state senate hearings tomorrow on issues and concerns that they're raised about voting in Georgia. Is that helpful? Do you all plan to participate?
I know we were invited to participate in at least one, and I think any discussion of election processes can be helpful on the education side. Because what's happening right now in large part is the president and his lawyers are exploiting a lack of understanding of a lot of these situations. The situation we saw in Gwinnett that was being looked at by people who have zero clue about how elections work was spun up into something of data manipulation when this young man was simply, I'll say it again just to clarify, the election management system is the sort of the brains of the election operation. There is a report on there called a batch report, which basically says we have done this many batches, there are this many ballots in these batches. And he was taking that report off because to save money, there is no Excel on the EMS because there's a license you have to pay for that. So they took it over to the county computer. And having no understanding of that, we have people out there from QAnon and other things saying, this man is committing treason. They're exploiting the lack of understanding. They're exploiting people's fears. And that's what leads to all this stuff. So any opportunity to answer these kinds of questions to the senators or representatives or anybody who wants to have a better understanding of how the systems work and about the real security and process we have in place will be welcomed. Yes?
I know you guys are wary of double voting. Can you kind of clarify, if you voted somewhere else, say in the general election, are the runoffs not a different election?
Runoffs are a completely different election, and whether you voted in it or not, you can vote in the upcoming runoff. If you're a registered voter in Georgia, that's fine. All right. Yes, sir.
Is your estimation still that you would recertify Friday afternoon?
Yes, we have a cutoff deadline for the counties to recertify by noon on Friday, and we will do it at some point after that once we get all the final uploads and make sure everything is correct. That it? All right, thank you all very much. Have a great day.